Wilson.
Rick, what has Jaden been able to do the last couple of days, and will he be available tomorrow to start?
He didn't work out yesterday, but he was on the floor today and did pretty much what everybody else did.
He's available tomorrow?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Rick, the NCAA made that decision yesterday to move the whole tournament to the state of Indiana. What was your impression of that? Do you like that move? And what's kind of exciting about that, I guess, with places like Hinkle involved in Assembly Hall?
Well, I don't think anybody is surprised that if you're going to pick one site to go to, you'd pick Indianapolis. If you took a poll of all Division I coaches that have been, or Division II, Division III, that had been in coaching for a long time, that would be one of the top cities that if you said you had to pick a place, where would you go? Indianapolis would be one of them because of the way things are laid out there. But obviously this is going to be different. But when you talk about a basketball state, I mean, obviously we know what the state of Indiana, how much pride they take in their basketball. And I'm sure with this year, there's still going to be a lot that's going to be learned from now until the end of until that tournament gets here. But I think overall, everybody's just excited that we know we're moving forward to try to have a postseason tournament.
Then
Go to Rob Lewis. Go ahead, Mike.
Then you had Drew Pembering in the first half the other day. Was that something you'd seen from him in practice? Was it a matchup thing, or why did you go to Drew early there?
Well, a lot of it had to do, I felt like we were stuck. I just felt like we did not come out with the same intensity. And when we got down, I just felt like we got stretched out too far. We got away from all of our base principles, and you just try some things sometimes just to see if you can get something else going. Maybe somebody can bring you a spark. And Drew did okay. He got put in a tough situation with the pass one time where he wasn't ready. He actually took a charge that wasn't called, which was our big thing with him is defense. And so that part of it. But overall, we actually tried everything just to see if we could get a spark from somebody to kind of try to jolt us out of where we were, but we never could get anything going.
Go to Rob Lewis, then Bob Holt.
Coach, just, watching the film, what was the film session like on Sunday, and how do you feel like your guys have responded to your message after that game?
Well, you can imagine it was tough because you know what? They have to look at it again and see the things that we didn't do well. And I think they saw that we didn't do anything well. And again, I don't want to take away anything from Alabama. They won the game, and but nothing that we practiced, nothing that we try to do, did we resemble that. Now, with that said, we had a ton of wide open shots that we missed, and we didn't shoot the ball well from the free throw line. We missed shots at the rim, missed dunks, missed tip ins. But believe me, we got a lot of wide open shots. They're going to make some threes. That's what they do. But it wasn't the threes that bothered us so much from a coaching staff standpoint. It was the getting blown by the rim shots where we had stopped helping each other in the gaps. And that's, again, we got frozen and we weren't simply concentrating, thinking what we need to do. And we can't play like that.
Yeah, Rick, hey, it's Bob Hope from the Arkansas Democrat. Is that how you doing?
Good.
Hey, I wanted to ask a couple things about your defense. I know you guys are only giving up 55 points on average. What's the key to that? And yesterday, Eric Musselman talked about Bob Kloppenberg. I guess he'd read an article where you guys have adopted some of his principles. And Eric said he went to his camps like 4 or 5 years, and his Kloppenberg coach with his dad. I got to admit, it wasn't a guy I was familiar with, but how have you used the Bob Kloppenberg effect, I guess, or influence or whatever?
Well, to be quite honest with you, from the time that I got into coaching, I would say that, the defense is what we've done. And through the years, maybe not so many maybe not as many defensive breakdown drills, because we used to break it down any and every way you could. And then when Mike Schwartz came back to be a part of our staff here, and Mike and I were talking about it, and I told him, I said, hey, we can take the defense to another level. You can take it and run with it. He's the guy that made the contact with Bob, and they've developed a friendship. Obviously, Eric would know him from his time in the NBA, and through, I'm sure, Eric's father, who was probably, during that time were, two of the terrific coaches. And but Mike Schwartz is, if you knew anything about Mike, he's like a sponge. He never stops trying to learn. He's always looking back, and And I talk often how much older coaches that are no longer coaching that have had a tremendous influence on my life in a lot of different things. And I think the key to all this is if you ever stop trying to learn, you might as well quit. And that's the one thing we try to do every year, look at what we do defensively or offensively and see how we can make it better. Mike himself has done a great job of, taking the defense and running with it. And like I said, he's had phone conversations with Bob.
Yeah, and I read, I think he's 93. How cool is that a guy who's in his 90s is still, helping out people like yourself?
Well, I think it's really cool because, I think if you talk to anybody that knew Bob, they would tell you that, he was a pure basketball man. That's what he loved. You talk about him at Tex Winters, and you go back to those guys that stayed in the game for a long time, long after, whether they were assistant coaches, long past when people thought, because coaches, head coaches want that kind of knowledge around them. They've seen a lot. They've seen it all. Maybe not all, because we keep seeing something new every day, but they had seen a lot. But the fact is, they are people that you love having around. My college coach was a tremendous influence on me after I left college, because Coach Hodges just loved the game, and his enthusiasm was, until we lost him, he was as big a fan as anybody that we had. But just to have someone that that's older, that's been around it, you can just run some things by, knowing that one, you're going to get the truth, and but I think it is neat. I do, and I would tell you, I know how much Mike enjoys talking to him, but I also know that I'm sure that Bob enjoys having the chance to still talk basketball with someone like Mike.
Thanks,
Teresa
Zach.
Walker. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, I got a couple more, but let your other guys get in. If there's time, I'll punch back in. Thanks.
All right, we'll go to Teresa and then Ryan.
Rick, some coaches are liking the casual dress on the sidelines, and even when restrictions ease and fans are back, that a couple are saying, you know what, I'm going to stick this way, forget the suits. Have you even thought about that? Do you like being casual, or are you looking forward to maybe getting back into a suit?
Oh, I like casual. There's no doubt I like the casual, and where it's especially good is on the road, because, you don't have to change if like you need to, because we would always change before we got back on the bus or the plane coming back. But I like it. I do. I would be lying to you if I didn't. Back in the day, a lot of people felt like you might not be showing the respect for the game if you're not doing what came before you. But I go back when I was young and watching professional football. I remember watching Vince Lombardi, Paul Brown. I think every head coach in the NFL, they would be decked out with tie, but you don't see it anymore. So I remember Tom Landry, they all had their deal. But now, and you think about baseball, they come out in a baseball uniform and do their deal that way. And the way we are now really is pretty much the way we are every day in practice. So I like it, to be quite honest with you. I really do.
With some of Eve's foul trouble and John's struggles the other night, you got an extended look at Josiah at the 4. What were some things with that lineup that you liked and maybe didn't like as well?
Well, obviously didn't like the fouls that Eve picked up, but he didn't get to play with a little bit over 20 minutes, and that hurt us a lot. And then but with Josiah, it's just things we're working on now. We're not totally where we want to be with that lineup, but we're doing a little bit more each day. And we like it when Eve's out there, because we do feel like when Eve moves to the 5, that gives us a chance to be our best defensive team, and where we can still do the switching that we want to do late clock. And it's not just the offensive end that we're talking about, but it's the defensive end. And so, but we still have work to do on both sides of the ball before and we'll use it. I don't think there's any questions. We're going to use it, and whatever the game dictates, we'll use it.
Ben McKee and Wes Rucker.
Coach, how do you feel John Fulkerson has specifically responded to Saturday's game?
Well, I think it's obvious that teams are going to be physical with John. They're not going to let him they're going to be physical, and they're going to meet him high when he's in training. They're going to meet him around the rim, and they're going to keep bodies on him. They're going to dig down. So he's going to have to work harder than he's ever worked for his space on the floor. He's going to have to learn to play quicker. He's got to get back to playing the way he was at the end of last year, and he hasn't played that way. He's almost like he's waiting, and it's taking away space from him. But we also need our perimeter players doing a better job of delivering the ball sooner, faster, quicker. And we haven't got that timing the way we need to be consistently the way we want it. But it's up to Fulky. Fulky's the kind of guy that you don't need to run a lot of plays for him. He knows enough about the game that once we get into our free movement, he knows how to move, get the ball in the areas that he needs to. And he's got to get back to that. You watch him, he's not bringing any really the kind of force thrust that we need him to bring, whether he's going into a ball screen or, moving off that ball screen or just anything. He's just got to bring more thrust to it.
Rick, I was going to also ask about Fulke. I know that he had that back that was kind of tight a little bit going into the season, and it looks like maybe your wrist or something's bothering him now. Is he physically okay? Is everything okay there?
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, he does. The thumb is there. It'll probably take some time with that, but Fulke is a guy that really has to take care of his body. I mean, not just. He's got to do it. He's got to work hard at keeping his weight up. We don't want his weight to drop. He's down probably a little bit more than we want him to be right now. But, he's been around long enough that he has to understand what all goes into this. And especially now, more than ever, he's got a big target on his back. He's going to get game plan for, first and foremost, I would say. And that means that he's going to have to deal with not just his opponent that's guarding him, but there's going to be a lot of eyes on him when he gets the ball.
Vince, then we'll take another one from Bob Holt.
Rick, speaking of game plan, do you anticipate with the way Alabama was able to get to the basket and drive past your perimeter guys that even if opponents moving forward don't shoot the three as frequently as Alabama does, that will be a plan against you guys to try to drive you and kick out for threes?
Well, that had been the plan for everybody. And the problem is everybody we played this year has tried to do that, but we did our work in our gaps. We didn't do it the other day. We weren't helping anybody with the ball. And when you look back at it, when you're switched, you got to be there to help you got to be in your gap early. You can't be guarding your man in, try to help and get back to a 3-point shooting team. You get where you're supposed to be to start with. So that one, they don't see the floor wide open. And then two, you're there ready to make a play in the gap. But we'd played against other teams that had driven the ball, but we had much better support defense. We had none whatsoever against Alabama. And teams that shoot threes are going to shoot threes, and you can't stop them shooting them. And I've told many teams of ours in the past, 15 threes won't beat you. You just can't let them have their threes and other things that you can't give them.
Rick, is Bob again. Arkansas has been a pretty good offensive team, but they were horrible the other day. Shot like 26%, 3 of 23s on layups. Watching that Mizzou game, what was your take on them? And kind of assuming they get back to being more like themselves, what sort of challenges do they present for your defense?
Well, just like teams that shoot it, the challenge every night. I could go back and tell you, it's a game of making misses. I mean, the other night we really had a lot of wide open shots with good players, guys like Santi and guys that we want to shoot it. And when you're playing against a team like Arkansas, who's got 3 terrific guards that averaging double figure points, that they have the ability to put up big numbers. And what you hope is that you defend them well enough where they don't get comfortable, where you could tell the other day, the way we were playing, Alabama got zoned in. They put us back on our heels, and we deserved it because we weren't doing anything that we should be doing. But I think, again, when you look at Arkansas, and you said it, Eric does a terrific job. He's going to pick his matchups he wants to go after. He does a great job with the analytics, wanting to push guys certain ways. He's going to play all that. Like we know good and well they're going to get on Santi's left shoulder and try to make him go. I mean, they'll be on his left side, just daring him to go right, and they'll do that with other players that they want to do it with. So it's a matter of us doing what we need to do to combat that. But in our league, I think on any given night, you look around, and I go back to this, not everybody's had a chance to get everything going the way they want to. It's still early in the year. And so if you're not ready to play, you're going to get beat. I don't care what people think it should happen, because there's teams in this league that are capable to beat anybody, not just in our league, but anywhere in the country.
Do you expect them to shoot better than they did last game just because they couldn't have 2 games like that in a row?
Well, I go into every game expecting people to shoot well. That's probably one of the biggest fears you have as a coach when you're going to play against somebody that shoots a lot of threes. One thing we know, the three is a great equalizer. And like I said, we've won games where teams have shot 15 threes through the years and made 15. But what that does, it maybe keeps the game close, on edge, where you got to go down and answer some way, somehow. But that doesn't mean you can't give them 15 threes, then put them on the free throw line more than you get there. And Arkansas does a great job. And I think it's one of their big deals is trying to get, they want to shoot more free throws, make more free throws than you shoot. And so they work hard at getting fouled, but you can't give a 3-point shooting team that fouls and then baskets at the rim. So, and you've got to take care of the ball. You got to make sure that you're getting your opportunities on the other end.
I said one more. Pons, he's obviously the defensive player of the year coming back. What makes him so good? You really don't, at least I don't think of a 6'6" guy as being a big time shot blocker, but he is. What makes him so good, and how does he, for being kind of mid-sized, how does he get all those block shots?
I think what makes him so good at it, I think he enjoys doing it. I think that he really does. I mean, he shows his athletic ability there. He does have a great timing, and he did a great job Saturday. He got a couple tough calls, but he's learned how to really do it without fouling, to be honest with you. He's really good at it. But it's something that I think he truly enjoys doing. I mean, he takes pride in wanting to defend and rebound the ball, and we call them fix-it plays where we know that he will come over to do it. And I've said in the past, we need more guys to help us with fix-it plays and not just always rely on Eve.
Thanks. Thank you.
Rob Lewis and Mike Wilson.
Coach, just what are a couple of things that are at the top of your scouting report for Arkansas that you want you to be aware of?
They're fast, Rob. They're fast, and like I said, really, really extremely well coached. And so it's going to be a high-paced game, and they'll shoot it quick, and they'll shoot it. If they feel like they've got a shot that they've worked on with their individual work and all that, they're going to shoot it. So getting matched up early is really, really important. We're going to have to, again, guard the drive because they're going to try to get fouled. They're going to drive the ball hard. They're going to test us that way, and then we're going to have good recovery defense. But going to have to rebound the ball with those long shots, long rebounds, and we simply are going to have to be ready to play a high-level defensive game because regardless of what they did last game, they've proven they can put up a lot of points. And I mentioned this. I think Eric does a terrific job of picking who he wants and where he wants them and how he wants it something done. If he wants to pick on somebody or two people, whatever it may be. And then on the other end, we've got to be a whole lot better than we were offensively the other night. I'm hoping that talking about them not shooting it well, we didn't shoot it well. I'm hoping that we have a good night shooting the basketball.
Yeah, Rick, how do you go about preparing for Arkansas? I mean, I don't know if any team had more turnover than they did in the offseason. Are they still a similar team with all those guys gone, or are there a lot of differences from what you guys saw last year?
No, I think that, again, they got three, their guards, oh boy, between them, over 45 points, somewhere in there. I know they got three guys in double figures that can go get a bunch early. They put pressure on you by the way they drive the ball. And Eric, he's a guy that with his experience, he's going to play the analytics, but he's also going to look hard at, like you look at the other night, I'm sure they'd love to get us in some ball screen actions where they get us a switch and get the matchup they want and things like that. So we've simply got to get better with what we do. And I will tell you, after watching the game, I was obviously pretty upset with Fulke after the game, but, watching them on tape defensively wasn't nearly as bad as I felt at that point in time after the game. Because, again, I mean, we left him out there on an island all by himself, and that's not his fault. And, there's no doubt he was trying to do the things that he needs to do. But, again, we're a team defense based strictly on everybody doing their job. And, it's all team-based. And the other night, we didn't show anything of what we're supposed to do.
Wes Rucker.
Rick, it seems like maybe overall in college basketball, and you're certainly seeing this in the NBA too, there are guys, more teams that are out there taking shots that you just wouldn't see guys take in the past. The length on some of these shots, the that they don't need much space to get them off. Has that changed the way that you've had to in any way kind of go about your core concepts defensively, or the kinds of guys you've recruited to try to contain those kinds of offenses?
Oh, there's no doubt the game has changed. I mean, the 3-point line changes it, and we'd be kidding not to think that the NBA, there's an NBA influence as well. I mean, you watch the NBA; those guys bomb that thing from way out there. I mean, they work so hard at it, and when you think about it, when you start comparing games, you really can't, because one, they got a wider lane, and you don't realize that difference in their 3-point shot. And you think about the college game. We tell our guys all the time, you can't be playing inside the college 3-point line with 2 feet. And because you think about, when we have an NBA line down on our court, that we try to play outside that NBA lane line because of what's happened in today's game, where guys will come across, and if you're not there, they'll raise up and shoot it. And so, yeah, as the game evolved different ways through the years, it has. And but yet, you see different things every year going on in the NBA, and I think there are guys, we all watch it because we know it's the highest level of basketball. It's it's the best players in the world. They do it, 365, 7 days a week, terrific coaches that, you learn, again, you can learn a lot. You not only there, but I can tell you this, I've gone into high school gyms, and I've learned things like I mentioned, we talked about Bob Klockenberg earlier. I had 2 great coaches that I worked with, Gary Williams and Wimp Sanderson, have had a great influence on me. Some of the things that they do, we still do. We do it today. I mean, I got a little bit of both of that. But you have to continually keep making yourself. I think you look around right now, you look at it in the football, you look at what's happening there. I've kept up enough with Nick Saban's comments where he made the comment that he's not sure that great defense wins championships anymore. Time of possessions maybe is not as important as it needs to be because you're trying to score quicker. So, Wes, to answer that question, it really is, you've got to continue to evolve and keep working. And the biggest mistake you can make, and I felt like this a little bit Saturday after we lost, is asking guys sometimes to do things they can't do, even though in my mind I had to believe that the things that we ask our guys, that they can do it, but sometimes you're like, well, maybe I'm asking them to do some things they can't do. I think that's probably the biggest mistake you can make in coaching, is you can watch the best of the best and think you're going to run it just like them. I remember one year I was out in LA and went by to see Coach Wooden, and I asked him the question, when he retired, how many coaches came to see him. He said the first year he was out, almost daily college coaches came by. He said that went on for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years. And he said after that, high school coaches would call and they would come by. And he said he had a high school coach come in one day and he had a film with him. And he said, Coach, I want you to know that I don't think I can run your offense any better than we did this year. And he showed it to him, but he said, we got all the shots we wanted out of the offense, but we didn't make them. And Coach Wooden said, he told me, he looked at the guy and said, well, maybe you should have spent more time on shooting. And I think that's important, that, you can learn schemes and watch schemes, but yeah, you still got to watch what's going on, and you can't put guys in position they can't do things. And because when this game's played right, it's a beautiful game to watch. It really is. When you got 5 guys that are in sync and moving the ball, and we felt a little bit of that at Missouri, but for whatever reason, you exhale for a second, it can get away from you as long as it took you to get there, it can get away a lot quicker. But when you play this game the right way, I tell you what, it's fun to be around. It's fun to watch.
We'll take a last call for questions. And Bob Holt, did you have anything else? I noticed your note in the chat.
Yeah, my audio, I didn't have my thing up. At the start, were you talking about Jalen Springer being back, or what's his status?
Yeah, he'll be back. Yeah, he practiced today.
How big a boost is that? Because I guess he's averaging over 10, I think.
Well, it's important. I mean, again, we basically played the game the other day with 2 guys that we count on quite a bit, to be quite honest. But I still think we're good enough that we can handle what goes on, but we didn't. But again, you're asking about shooting. I'm hoping guys stay healthy and that we can get our best group of guys out there, and the combinations we put out there that they can play well and do what we need them to do.
And I'm sure you know Justin Smith's out for Arkansas. Eric said they really missed him, but he's gonna be out for a while, 5, 6, maybe more. The fact this is their second game without him, you know, they didn't do real well without him the last game. Do you think maybe they'll make better adjustments because they're a little more used to not having him?
Well, I think as time goes on, I think you do make those adjustments, and certainly you don't want to see that happen to anybody because it's happened to all of us at some point. But the more over the next couple of weeks that he's not there, I do think they will adjust, and when he comes back, they'll be that much better for it, you know. But again, Eric's been around a long time. I mean, Eric is a terrific coach, and he'll make the adjustments that he needs to make with what he's got, and whatever he's got, I promise you, he's going to put him in the best position possible he thinks they need to be in to win basketball games.
Hey, that's great stuff. Thanks.
All right.
And last question goes to Gustavo.
Coach, how do you see those, today's and yesterday's practices in terms of, your players kind of maturing in terms of the laws and learning, how to improve for tomorrow's game?
Well, I think it starts with when you lose a game. And again, we treat winning and losing the same. We treat our prep. We don't, we have our routine and we go through it. And obviously when it's a film, when you play on Saturday, you really don't, Sunday's our day off. We come in Monday. And I think when the players see it, I think they're already disappointed. And most of them have probably watched it themselves, but it's disappointing when you feel like you haven't played up to the standard that you tried to work to play to. And again, it's not to take anything away from your opponent, but I think every team in the country, I think, feels if they play the way they're capable of, they've got a chance to win every single night. And the fact is, we watched it. We showed the things that we didn't do. We did not get very good defensive guard play from a couple guys that we're counting on, and that hurt a lot. And then we expect those guys to go out on the court, and we clean up the things that we didn't do well. We expect them individually to understand, okay, this is what I didn't do, and I've got to get better at it. And so it's all about being real, being honest. I think everybody's got to speak truth, and sometimes that's hard to hear. But one thing I've said over and over, that tape doesn't lie. It tells you exactly what went on, and then you hope that everybody looks at it and takes it in and says, hey, I made these mistakes and I've got to fix it. And is it disappointing? It is. And, but then you got to let it go. You got to get on to the next game and realize that if you have any lingering behind where you're not thinking about whether psychologically or get yourself prepared physically as well as mentally, you'll drop another one. So you've got to have a short memory, but in some ways you got to have a long memory. You got to be able to understand that, hey, I got a job to do. My teammates are counting on me to do it, and I've got to do it.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate everyone.